Tony D and Little Joan somewhere in the background, and this is book 14 of the Pineys, the Pirate Piney. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. All right, so book 14 is officially dropped. You can get the book. You can get the Kindle Unlimited or Kindle version if you so desire. What's book 14 about? It's all about pirates. Oh, it's Pirate Central, this one. So you might ask, why am I doing a Piney story about pirates? Well, as it turns out, all the major pirates came to South Jersey during the golden age of piracy. Yeah, I didn't realize that either until I started reading about it. I guess I must have started looking at pirates when I was writing the Bloody John Bacon story, because he was a pirate too. He was a highwayman, but he was also a pirate. I mean, he would just he just steal anything. But there were always stories about Captain Kidd in South Jersey, and I had incorporated some of that in my comic book, The Jersey Devil, especially in the first 4 issues, because the legend is, the first legend about Captain Kidd is that he buried his treasure in the Jersey Pine Barrens somewhere and beheaded one of his men so the ghost would guard the treasure. So in the Jersey Devil comic book, in the first 4 issues, the Jersey Devil character pals around with the headless ghost pirate, who I named Nate. And so him and Nate are running around, and then Nate has a dark secret, and it's all very dark and mysterious. So for the Pineys, I wanted to do a big, huge, full-length story tying into the pirates. Now, I mentioned the pirates in a couple of different stories. Let's see. The first time I mentioned the pirates was Bloody John Bacon. Also, in the first book, in the Pineys, one of the original Pineys in Abe's hat is a pirate. And then later we see more of him in book 13, which is the last book, and we get to know his name, Fontaine Galloway, who was not a real pirate, but he's sort of an amalgamation of pirates. But his story is he found Jesus, and then he gave up the ways of piracy, and then tried to become a good guy. But it was very late in life when it came to him, and then so he's still a little rough around the edges. This one, however, ties into Captain Kidd, Stede Bonnet, and Blackbeard. And without giving too much away, one of the characters wants to find pirate treasure, has always wanted to find pirate treasure, and this is a real thing in South Jersey. And I think I mentioned it actually in the book, and I mention it in my talks. When I do my Jersey Devil talk, I usually segue into the ghost towns and some of the other legends and the pirates. So late in his life, Benjamin Franklin wrote an essay about pirate treasure in the Philadelphia region, which includes South Jersey. And it went something like, too many people are looking for pirate treasure to the ruin of their own families. So this was a real thing. There were so many rumors, and and there were ex-pirates all over the place. Because what you have to understand about South Jersey during the 1700s, the golden age of piracy was somewhere in the mid 1600s to about 1720-ish. And, the pirates, after a time, would retire. Some of them would. The smarter ones would get out before they were killed, right? They'd make some money, and then they'd be like, adios, Captain. Because it was that kind of free-for-all, It was part of the reason they were pirates to begin with, to be more free and have sort of mastery of their own domain. So once you made enough money, and you were capable of living on the land and maybe having a farm or something, you might just say, all right, I'm gonna stop here, like getting up, if you go to the blackjack tables in Atlantic City and you want to walk away with money, you got to get up from the table before you start losing, right? So that's the way it was. Each time you go out with a pirate ship, it was a gamble. You might be killed, you might get some disease, you might work for a year and come back and not really make any money. So if you made enough money, let's say, I don't know, you had a goal in mind of 100 gold coins, and that would have been a ton of money back in the day. You know, you could get out, buy yourself some land, get a wife, and start farming and start living your life, right? And that's what a lot of pirates did, or at least that's the rumor. So, as I've said to a lot of people during my talks, some of the South Jersey towns that we know of today probably were in some part founded by ex-pirates. They would have waltzed into the town. Maybe they just bought their way in because they had money. Maybe they just settled it because they were still settling the area. I mean, when the Coffin brothers founded Hammond Town, they just waltzed right in there and just set up shop. I don't think they bought the land. I think they just settled it. Jacob Ong, when he settled Ong's Hat, I think the same thing. I think he just settled the land. I mean, if the land was unsettled and you built a town there, I guess people were like, well, he built a town, he could have it. I don't know. Land was pretty cheap at one point. There's a story, of course, of the Palace of Depression, which was in book 13 of the Pineys. And the guy there walked to Vineland, New Jersey, which was not much at the time, and bought, I think, 6 acres for $6. So land was $1 an acre. So he spent his last $6 buying this land, and he didn't have a house or anything, so he started putting together a house made out of junk. So that's pretty late in the game when he did that. That was during the Depression. We're talking like, this is the 1700s. You know, are there laws? Yeah, sure there are laws, but if you go out in the woods and build a house and knock down the trees around and have a farm, I mean, who's going to stop you in the 1700s? Not too many people. Not too many people. And if nobody ever comes out there, I mean, you could live and die there for a generation. Nobody would even know. So this is the land the way it was. And the pirates, you know, being adventurous types themselves, could have just said, hey, I've had enough. Shown up on the shores of Ocean City. And keep in mind, too, they were sailors. Probably would have been better off for them to retire and become fishermen than it would be to retire and, say, become farmers. You know, as a fisherman, you would kind of know what you're doing. You know how to sail a boat. You probably know how to fish. So you got the money to buy a boat. So you buy a decent rig and a house, and you're pretty well set. Unless, of course, your fellow pirates show up one day and steal your fish. But I don't think the pirates usually raided fishing boats. Anyhow, this is what Book 14 is a little bit about. Now, it doesn't take place during the Golden Age of piracy. It's sort of the fallout from that. It takes place in the modern day, of course. But there are treasures buried around South Jersey, and on the back of the print book is a listing of a bunch of the places that legend has it some of the pirate treasures exist, and we explore some of them in this story. So one of the main places is Burlington, Cape May, and places around Oyster Creek, Brigantine, Delhaven, Money Island, a few other places. I basically try to stick to South Jersey, of course, but there's a few more places in North Jersey I didn't want to get into because the list would have been too long. But you know, you can find all this stuff, and as I've also said in my talks, in the Delaware Bay there is a huge bundle of pirate treasure. Black Bart, arguably one of the most successful pirates of the era. We don't really get into it directly about Black Bart, but Black Bart was on a tear up and down the East Coast, and he had two ships at the time, and they were both overloaded with pirate booty. He had taken about 12 different ships. He was in Cape May looking to unload some of his booty, but he got cornered by the British Navy, and he had to fight his way out. During the fight, he got out but lost one of the ships. That ship is at the bottom of the Delaware Bay, full of pirate treasure. No one's found it, to my knowledge. There is a recent wreck that they did find. I think that's closer to the Caribbean, and the word is it's 17 or 20 billion dollars worth of gold on it. Now they haven't even pulled it up, but already the Spanish government is suing to get some of it or all of it back. So I don't know what they're expecting, but maritime law I thought was pretty clear. You know, if you salvage it, you get to keep it, but apparently there's a bit of a loophole there. I guess when it comes to $20 billion, it's worth a shot. So that's the kind of money that's at stake sometimes with these pirate wrecks, if you can find them. Personally, if I found a pirate treasure, you wouldn't hear word one from me. I mean, sure, there'd be signs. I'd probably have nicer clothes and be broadcasting from a villa somewhere, but I still wouldn't tell you. My advice, if you happen to come across pirate treasure, shut the F up and, quietly unload it and don't tell anybody. But that's just me. I don't know how legal that is. I'm sure it's legal. I mean, if you find it on your own property. The problem is where you find it. That's part of it. If you find it on somebody's property, I believe it belongs to them. But, if they're smart, they might cut you in for a little bit of a slice. I think that's only fair. But, pirate treasure is a real thing in South Jersey. My favorite tale, which I talk about in my talks, is Blackbeard's story. So the story goes that he buried his treasure on Wood Street, either in Philadelphia or Burlington, underneath a black walnut oak. So, and the story goes, a crazy Spaniard and his crew volunteered to guard the treasure in death and shot himself on the spot. And the rest of the crew felt so bad for him, they shot his dog and threw him in the hole too, so he'd have company in the afterlife. Now, the interesting thing is, up until 1875, there was a massive black walnut oak on Wood Street in Philadelphia. But, as far as we know, the treasure was never found. Maybe they were smart, dug it up, and never said anything. Maybe it's just another apocryphal folk tale because there was a big walnut oak on Wood Street and people would tell stories about it. It sounds to me an awful lot like the Headless Ghost Pirate story with some modifications. But who knows? It's so long ago, during a time of which you would not hear about these things like you hear about it on the internet, where there'd be a video or an account. You would just hear it second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 50th hand from somebody who heard it from a bunch of other people, through a bunch of other people, and whisper down the lane. The story would get more and more interesting. So that's where a lot of this stuff comes from, I think. But that being said, they did find a Spanish doubloon on Money Island in the Manasquan River, which was attributed to Captain Kidd, but they never found much of his treasure there. They found some in Long Island, I believe, but they didn't find much at Money Island, but it didn't stop people from looking. There's been rumors they have found something in the Pine Barrens, but I never heard the full story. But they haven't found a lot of the treasure that we hear about. But a lot of those stories could not be true. We don't know. But if you want a list and you want to get digging, like they're digging in the Pineys, check out the book. As far as the story, a lot of the story focuses on the relationship between Hemingway and his cousin Elliot, because it turns out Elliot's the one who really would like to find some pirate treasure. And the woman in this picture is one of the antagonists. but I won't give it away. But yeah, there's some supernatural angle to her, and she is not a South Jersey one, but there are, let's see, besides the pirates, there's at least two other supernatural type beings, I'll say, from South Jersey in the mix. So, yes. So, a lot of stuff going on in this book, and it kind of leads right into book 15, which I'm working on now. And there's quite a bit of impact in this story, I'll say, which is going to influence 15, which I'm about halfway through. And got to get the cover started on that. Got to finish that. And got to do some more events and get the word out. So if you want to help me, you can help me by passing around this link, telling people about the Pineys and how awesome it is, and getting yourself a copy. So thanks for listening, and check out book 14 of the Pineys. We'll see you